So once again, we're looking at Privacy Crisis. This was originally published or copyright back in 2006 by James Clark King, LLC, and he says, no part of this book may be reproduced, recorded, scanned, or transmitted by mechanical, electronic, or other means, except for brief passages as per copyright law fair usage, and so we'll just keep it brief. And I thank him very much for writing the book. But again, since key personal information is used in identity theft, the best way to prevent becoming a victim is to eliminate or at least drastically reduce the availability of information about you who might want to become you. To anyone who might want to become you. A good foundation to prevent identity theft can be laid following privacy rules. And then he goes into this and he talks about it, all right? Become invisible, he says, to those who search property databases for your home address. Whether you rent or own your home, you can accomplish this by using a trust to own the house or condominium, or by renting it in an alternate name. While the latter can be accomplished, and must be for home privacy, it will require special skills and diligence to do it. So prepare thoroughly by studying the home section of this book, he writes. Travel anonymously by driving a trust-owned vehicle, with no mention of you as a trustee on the registration documents. Bank secretly. Utilize a trust checking account or check cashing stores, or obtain an anonymous safe deposit box. A Nevada limited partnership is the entity preferred by many privacy seekers who wish to hold liquid assets anonymously. Freeze all credit reports and receive your credit card statements, bank account statements, brokerage statements, tax correspondence, and all other official and personal mail at a distant address, utilizing pre-screened nominees to receive your mail. Hold businesses and investments in entity names unrelated to your true name. Avoid working as an employee whenever possible, and use a Nevada limited liability company, an LLC, or a trust to receive payments on your behalf. Use an assumed name or an alternate name for routine communications and make telephone calls from public phones or a cell phone registered anonymously. Use your alternate name or company name for all business and communication unless you are legally required to provide your true name. So there's some of the things that you can do here. Just some of the things. Driver's license privacy. It is important to keep your driver's license as private as possible. Since we've become accustomed to carrying a driver's license in our wallets and producing it whenever asked, this will take some practice, but remember that your passport contains far less available information about you, now that's not necessarily true today, and is a superior primary identification document. Using a U.S. passport offers privacy advantages when banking, continuing, when registering a trust-owned vehicle, and for all identification requirements not associated with operating a motor vehicle. So trust works for you there too. Private registration. Even when you're traveling. Once you choose a hotel, you may handle the reservation by telephone. When calling, request information and confirm that a suitable location is available to satisfy your security and privacy requirements. A second floor end unit close to the rental office may be a good choice. When all your requirements have been satisfied, you'll be asked to reserve your suite with a credit card. You may use your preloaded MasterCard or Visa card held in your alternate name or company name. Once again, the use of a trust can be valuable to you. Practical applications, solutions served. All right, now back to our text here, a different one. This one, back to Creative Evolution by Henry Bergson. Again, concepts are in fact outside of each other. This idea of this state and the state, you as the flesh and blood individual in this legal fiction that, unbeknownst to you, and probably unwelcome to you, has been created, but unfortunately, you're always repenting. You're penning yourself back up going into this thing by using the instruments of this state. And your words and your actions and your deeds can then be held against you to drive you back out of one venue into another venue, or out of one situs into another. And it's going to be up to you to understand, and me up to understand, how we can go ahead and use this, and I'm learning right along with you. They are therefore not images but symbols. Our logic, again, is the complete set of rules that must be followed in using symbols. Symbolism. Some people make a entire broadcast of that. Check out Freeman's work. As these symbols are derived from the consideration of solids, as the rules for combining these symbols hardly do more than express the most general relations among solids, our logic triumphs in that science, which takes the solidity of bodies for its object, that is, in geometry. Long ago I heard a Latin phrase, and remember it. Ubi materia, ubi geometria, ibi mysteria. Where there's matter, there's geometry. And where there's geometry, there's mystery. And there's a lot to that. It's a lengthy study. But logic and geometry, again back to Bergson, logic and geometry engender each other, as we shall see a little further on. It is from the extension of a certain natural geometry, the natural sciences, suggested by the most general and immediate perceived properties of solids, that logic has arisen. And then from this natural logic, in its turn, has sprung scientific geometry, which extends further and further the knowledge of the external properties of solids. Geometry and logic are strictly applicable to matter. In it, they are at home, and in it, they can proceed quite alone. But outside this domain, pure reasoning needs to be supervised by common sense, which is an altogether different thing. So sometimes we get carried away in this tyranny of words. Sometimes we allow ourselves to be swept away in the tyranny of law. And we can certainly see, looking at the news on a regular basis as we do, and looking at the economic situation and the geopolitical landscape, the Vantage Point with Michael Vail, Blacklisted News, Doug Owens, Lee Rogers, Mike Chambers. We can get carried away in all of this and we forget. Actually, as we get carried away in all this, we can easily see that one criteria has not been met. That is common sense. And unless we invoke the power of discernment, unless we bring into play and into bear common sense in all things, we just become a victim of circumstance in this world that we live in. We live in a very unique way, I guess, world, existence, plane, sphere. We are in a body and out of a body. We are a created being, and yet we are of the Creator, curiously enough. And this book, Creative Evolution, attempts to bring that to light. It's very popular in its time, got a lot of play. It fell to the wayside. I'm not done with it yet, so I'm not going to go into it and endorse it one way or the other. I'll just say that it's a very interesting read. But we live in a very unusual place. It's like a world of frequency. We exist, let's say, on 98.4 FM. But there is another frequency at 98.3, and there's another, yet again, at 98.5. Right out of the box, we're set at 98.4. Can we tap into 98.3? Can we go to 98.5? Can we do it voluntarily? Can we do it at will? Can we move from the state, the real world, into the legal state, into this state, and transition back out when we need to defend ourselves, to defend our life, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness? Did our founders understand this well enough to set up a system that would facilitate that and make that easy? Was the knowledge of that system withheld? Were they Masons? Obviously, many were. James Wilson was one of the principal drafters of all these documents. But at the same time, they knew they were charting on all new territory. And what they created here on these shores was something completely unique in the history of man. We had created a place, the state. We had created a place where we recognized that we are all created beings, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator, and again the language of trust all over this now, endowed by their Creator, the founders, with certain unalienable or unalienable rights. Can't be taken away. They're in the trust forever. if only we know how to access them. Endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable or unalienable rights. They can't be leaned, they can't be taken away, inseparable. But we're going to have the master keys if we want to get our country back. I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Until the next time.